have a problem.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka, Draziv. Guys, welcome to the show. If you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe. If your first time here, do invite your friends too. And if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com, rts.video, yes, rts.video is one of our main sponsors for Heliopsychosis and most of our coming productions. So make sure you guys check out rts.video. Amazing platform for content creator and for as a viewer for stuff which is normally censored on different main platforms. So you can find amazing stuff there on rts.video. And yes, what an awesome show we have today too. The topic. Yes, many would think that what we're going to be discussing today sounds like speculations or theory, but the truth is it's very similar to other topics that we have discovered, like we have researched in our past podcasts, like, for example, the different cosmologies. And the same way as it's infested with proof of flat Earth or level Earth with realms, is the same way this topic is also, in a way, in different mythology. They want to call it mythology or fantasy or science fiction in a way, in some aspect. But the truth is, this information is also right coded in there. So yes, let's jump in with our guest and panelists. First, my co-host, my brother Gene. How are you, brother?
Hey, Vikka. I'm doing awesome. I'm really psyched for tonight. I've been looking forward to this. Another vast topic, though, right, bro? This is like giants in biology. And how big were the giants? 20 feet tall or 2 miles tall in between? And so, great topic. We got some full house tonight. Welcome, everybody. Hi. And let's just get right into it. This is going to be very interesting, guys. Hey, you know, I want to throw one thing out there. There's a cartoon out there my son watches, and I mentioned it before. It's called Attack on Titan. If you guys are into like animation or whatever, Attack on Titan is pretty incredible stuff. So, yeah, welcome, guys, and thanks, Vikka.
Oh yeah, they're throwing in everything this information too, and they want to call it, right, cartoons or animations or stories by the ancients who didn't have any idea, never giving the credit, or always twisting the truth. So that's what we're going to try to decode today. Awesome, brother. And our next panelist, Evelyn. Evelyn, how are you and where have you been?
Hi, I'm doing good.
And yeah, well, I like giants, so I had to be here.
Oh, you know how many times we have in all the different cosmologies it's unavoidable because it's there encoded right there. So yeah, awesome. Great to have you again. And yeah, and we have two special guests for tonight who have like more in detail research on this, and it's a pleasure to have them here. First is Dan Sphinx, right? Hey Dan, how are you, brother? And welcome.
Hi, Vikka. How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're
I'm doing
welcome,
pretty
brother.
good. Doing good.
And yeah, Dan, tell us about yourself and how you got into it.
Well, briefly, I would say since I was a kid, looking at mountains and just rocks out in the forest and that, parents would take us camping a lot up in the Alleghenies, mostly in Pennsylvania. And, I'd see stuff in the rocks and point it out to other people. Even as a kid, I'm like, man, but I believed for most of my young adult life and childhood that it was just what you would call pareidolia, and some of it very well may be that, but certainly not all of it.
Oh yeah, because you have eyes to see. Because there are people, even if you show them, it's difficult for them to see. But there are people who can just see the obvious one and not so obvious one too, right?
Right.
So yeah, I too see a lot of pareidolia and everything, and I totally believe too in that. So
Right. I'm not saying, that pareidolia is not a real thing. It of course is, but there's a lot more to it than just that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to sharing some thoughts on, different views from, mud fossils to, vitrification and, what some people call flash frozen, which is, correct, except I think it was more like cooked, not frozen, you know.
Oh yeah, it could be some kind of weapon, could be natural, right?
For a long time, I assumed it was some kind of natural plasma blast or some kind of solar blast, something of this nature. But now, the more things I know about directed energy weapons and, a lot of the old fires like Chicago and other ones, you know, their depictions, their paintings, but they're showing UFOs with beams cooking things. So, but point being, I'm starting to suspect that it very well may be man-made or orchestrated by man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what we're gonna try to find out, right? So welcome, brother, and our final panelist is gonna be Jen Sphinx. How are you, Jen?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. And as I've always kind of thought since I was a little girl, that so many people get a bit or a piece of the puzzle, and when we put them together, we get a complete picture. And I think that that's, what we're kind of trying to do here is to share all the insights that each of us gets so that we can see more completely.
Absolutely, because that's the thing with flat Earth. I don't know how you guys are flat Earth or not.
Yes,
but
yes, I am.
Well, hey,
because
I'd like to throw in,
interconnects. Yeah, go ahead.
Off record, it's flat as a pancake. All right. And I've been up in hot air balloons. I've been in, not a real lot of jet rides, but enough that I've seen as far as you can see, it's flat. But I've kind of figured for the last few years that where I'm more like kind of pushing, the fossil and mud fossils type stuff, it's not worth arguing over to the point where you're just cutting connections. You know what I mean? But I guess it's on record, but it's flat, man. It just is. And there's even like biblical reference that says the same thing, as far as a firmament and all that.
Exactly, because that's the beauty about flat Earth and all these other investigations that interconnects and makes it much more legit because it's all are interdependent. All these mud fossils, the giants, the titans, everything is the giant trees, the extra lands. It's all connected, and it really confirms in a way of what we all are trying to connect it together, even with the mud floods and Tartaria and the construction. So all these researches together makes it more solid, and that's, I think, is the most awesome part about connecting these dots together, right?
Definitely.
100%, brother. Yeah, we were talking a little before the show, and that's exactly what we were saying too. How it's some of the obscure things are harder to put in the pieces of the puzzle, and it's a lot of fun to be here with you guys and getting those pieces to fit well, because they do fit. Some are just a little more obscure than others.
And exactly, because also the giants, right? It just demolishes the globe, because how can you imagine these giants on a globe? Because it's like you have to, like, what these giants have to peek in the South Pole to see where are the other giants, like on the vertical side of the globe. Doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
This is how I got into all of this stuff real heavy when I ran into New Earth. That's a channel on YouTube, and I'm wondering about the giants. I'm like, all right, so how big do you got to be to cross the United States in a minute on foot? Kind of ideas, and it's just it was crazy. And then I ran into Bieber from The Rocks Are Alive. And you too, Dan. I ran into you a long time ago, bro. I'm not sure how long we've been friends.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into it. And it's just right, Vika. Yeah, like you said, it does destroy the globe when you get into the size of some of these people they're talking about.
And we were talking about briefly, the big fish and whatever thing over in, the thing Roger's always talking about. I mean, it seems, pretty legit to me, but the size of these things is, compared to the landmass, okay, clearly they died here. There they are. But, I think they're not from here. They're from outside our plane, realm, and, slammed on the earth, basically.
Right. He's got that. Roger from Mud Fossil University, guys, has a
Roger Spire, right? Yeah.
It's the whole entire top of Africa, though, coast to coast almost.
Yes, Morocco. It's
right. Yeah.
It's just I might be on top of it. I'm like very near to Morocco.
Yes. Yeah. So, and we had talked about it, Vikka. You know what I'm talking about, and it seems, like his story lines up with what's going on in the geology there, and it looks like the two animals he's talking about. But exactly, I asked him once, how could those two animals live on, you got them on the size of a basketball, two animals living on a basketball. It's like either the Earth is hundreds of times bigger than they're explaining it to us, or it's just flat. And Roger kind of blew a fuse on me because he don't like flat earthers.
So the sizes of these creatures that he's showing are so vast, that means that the only possibility, if there is some truth to it, could be, as you say, that the earth is much more big, flat, but much more big, that we are on a very small part. So it's very difficult to imagine that such a huge creature is covering so much distance in all our non-earth, or the continents, right?
Oh yeah. And even like we were talking a couple of weeks ago about the anaconda down between Argentina and the South Pole, Antarctica. It looks like an anaconda's head in between those two continents there, and I don't know, but you could pull it up on Google Earth if it's still there. There's no North Pole anymore. So who knows what Google Earth's going to not have tomorrow.
There's also one guy who says that the Monte Urbano map looks like a whale. The whole continent, the known continent, right?
Wow.
Well, if you look on, what I don't know, I always felt geographically challenged. Like, I just didn't get it. But I think, something inside me knew that it's bullshit kind of thing, But if you look at what they show us as the continents and land masses, a lot of them look like some types of creatures or whatever, or giants.
There are a lot of them in there.
Yeah, sometimes I go to Google Earth, and if you play around with the zoom, you can zoom into formations, and I'm not talking about mountains, but further away. You look from a higher distance. You can see whole countries where the mountain ridges they look like a being of something like that. They look like animals, or I think last week I was just looking around in the Middle East section, and what I saw was a sort of a well, it's the whole of the Middle East, so down to India, I think, the whole of India, and then right up to Palestine, Israel. It was it's the whole form of a body with big muscles, and its head, it looks like a sort of a skull, and then it looking to the side, to the west.
Oh yeah, that's one of the thing I shared few weeks ago. It's like the Africa looks like a whole skull.
Okay, no,
It's called Skull Island.
This one that I saw was smaller than Africa. It was just the sort of the Middle East, and the where I looked in the direction. I looked in the map where the eyes were looking at, and it was looking at the other side of I think it's the Red Sea. Close, I think it was over.
Yeah,
Egypt
looking down. Yeah, looking down.
And
yeah,
it's like, and I'm looking. I'm really looking for something, because this skull, these eyes, they're looking in a certain direction, and I'm like, okay, what's he looking at? And well, after a few minutes of searching, I could make out the shape of a kind of an angelic being with wings, sort of crouched and looking directly at the other one. And I'm like, whoa, this is really amazing. And then I get to thinking, well, these beings, they form our base, our earth, our rocks. I mean, how big has this earth have been in the distant past? And I'm talking about before this creation. In the biblical creation, it happened about 6,000 years ago. So I'm talking before that, because people are probably screaming at me right now.
Yeah, you don't remember the Norse cosmology and how these giants were the base. Literally,
Yes.
the cosmology of Norse says that the ice giants and how they were formed, and
Yeah, yeah. So, and then I thought about what you said, the that the landmass looks like a whale, and it does, and that made me think about in the verse in the parable, one of the stories in the Bible of Jonah going to the or being swallowed by the whale and living in its belly for 3 days or something. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at the map. Where is the belly of the whale in the map? And
it's almost
right
in the center.
It's in the center. Yes, it's in the North Pole. And I'm like, whoa, it's. I've been thinking about a lot of passages from the Bible. People think, oh no, it's all. It can't be literal. It has to be spiritual or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it refers to two sides, not only in the physical world, but also in the spiritual world. They're linked together. And what got me to think that was a conversation I was having with someone, because they were talking about the clean and unclean food, and one was saying that no, it's metamorphic. It's a metaphor, because what was I saying? Oh God, I forgot. That it was a metaphor, that it wasn't a physical thing, that we can eat everything, and they had two really good points. The one, and I'm just like, well, why can't it be both? I mean, physically, we get advice not to eat certain types of animals because they're unclean. And why do they call them unclean? Well, that's because they are the toxicity levels are high. They eat carcasses, or they eat a lot of rubbish and rotten stuff. So that makes them toxic for us. So we are given advice in the Bible that unclean animals, you won't eat them. You won't eat them. Well, it's not advised to eat them. I mean, you can eat them, but it contributes to building lots of toxins in your own body.
Exactly. So the thing is, the whale, it looks like the continent looks like a whale. We're not saying that it is a whale, but if you look at Monte Ruanamo, it looks like that. And there are a few people who connects this dot about the whale and connecting with the verses. So if it's like this, what I think, the rest of the giants are inside the whale. Everything that we know, all the animals, all the dragon, so because there are some people seeing the dragon, some people are seeing giants, some people are seeing trees, some people are seeing, right?
Yeah. In my mind, I have this vision of the earth sort of being bigger, being wider, more land, I mean massive. If you look at the size of these animals, or the whale, if you look at the size of the whale, you would have to think, well, if there's a whale, maybe there are more animals lying around, as in, other lands with the shapes of other animals. And
well, I think, if I could jump in a sec, I'm not sure if it's actually in the Bible, but I've heard, the earth is the carcass, exactly like that.
Yeah, that's why it made me think of Jonah in the belly of the whale. And then I'm thinking, well, where is that? And that is it's in the Arctic Circle in there. So yeah, there's something going on. We know that there's something going on in the North Pole there, but we can't go explore either. So I know maybe he spent 3 days in Mount Meru there. I don't know. And then I have this vision of of the the Earth. You know, new now we live on this carcass of the whale, and then it sort of gets smaller. All the beings, all the living creatures, they get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Well, a lot of people believe that, pre-Adam and Adam and a lot of the old prophets, Noah and such, were were giants to begin with, you
Mm.
know, and
Well,
ended up with
they certainly were bigger. Yes, they
and
certainly
ended
were
up
bigger, because
with
Adam was made in the image of God. Yes, but he looks like the angels. He looked like the angelic beings. And if you Google for the tomb of Abel in Damascus, I mean that thing is about 12 meters long. So so yes, it is believed that they were taller.
Oh yeah, and not only in the Bible. I think most of
Mm-hmm.
the cosmologies that we discussed here, they all speak about these giants or titans, because also in the Greek mythology or Greek cosmology, they all are supposed to be like
Well,
Batus was the figure in Greek. Yeah.
yes, you only have to look at the hieroglyphs and drawings in Egypt. You see a really big guy sitting on a chair next to some smaller people, and
Also the
people
Sumerian,
think, yeah,
also the
yes,
Sumerian, the Babylonian. We discussed
mm-hmm,
most of them. The Tiamat
yeah,
coming from the ocean below.
I don't think any of them compare with the size to our size, really. They're all gigantic
mm,
in the cosmologies, all of them.
well, I kind of think that before the last reset, mud flood, disaster, whatever you want to call it, that they were down around 12 feet ish, 12 feet. Um, but clearly, um, like with the Egyptian stuff, they were existed at the same time. Like everybody wasn't giants, and then we all shrunk. There was giants and regular sized people. You know, probably tiny people. I've seen a lot of evidence of what little people, and it's funny because most people don't have a problem with giants. Maybe even mountain sized giants. But you start talking about little people. Oh, now you're nuts, man.
Now
Like
you want to
dwarfs,
report
right? Yeah, and elves.
Right,
and
even
fairies.
smaller though. I mean, smaller, like fairy size.
mhm.
Well, Evelyn, it reminded me of how the mainstream narrative would describe space as being endless, where you can't even see the end, and that's how I kind of think the Earth could be. Whether we're stuck in one part of it, that's different, but the whole entirety of it, I think it could just be an endless, vast,
Yeah,
just
I
endless
mean we can
source
only
of.
speculate what's out
Right,
there. I
right.
mean, we can let our imaginations run wild there.
And why
Um,
not? Because they got us living on a
yeah,
12,000-mile circumference ball, so and living in an empty sea of nothing. So and
yeah. I mean, I used to
nothing
believe
further
that
from the truth.
if there's life on this, ball in space,
Mm,
or God could have made life on another planet. So I was open to that. I mean,
right,
not anymore, but
right.
um, but it's kind of changed because we don't we know how how do you say more or less how big this creation is under the globe. We know more or less how far it goes. It's and then it's a snow globe. What we don't know is what can be out there. And I'm not talking about extraterrestrials coming from the outer land to this land or anything, because nothing can get through the firmament, and nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but there could be passages, seasonal passages.
No.
So I think you missed the simulation podcast, the last one. We discussed few things related to that.
Yeah.
And also according to that simulation theory, that these giants were petrified into mountains and trees. That's why we see so much of pareidolia also in mountains and in trees. I see a lot of trees that looks like humans or humanoids. A lot of them.
Yeah, I kind of see that stuff too, very easily.
Well,
I always thought it was just, just like art talking to me, nature's art talking to me.
Well, I kind of felt the same way, actually. And I'm like, I'm looking at rocks. I'm looking at stuff that you could see signs of, skin layers that are peeling, literally. And people are talking about trees. I'm like, I don't want to hear that stuff. That's crazy. But the more I've looked at trees and seen some stuff to where it's, maybe they are sentient beings. It's possible,
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, because people speak to trees, and trees, as we spoke, the vegetal is also a technology in a way. Right. We see it as biologic and organic, but it's also a technology. It has everything: the trees, the plants, the herbs,
and they're definitely coded.
Trees have been very, very special to me, and since I was a little girl, and plants. And I have been led to lay hands on trees to pray for their healing. And I've literally seen other trees attacking a good tree, like a bad tree attacking a good tree, and praying for its deliverance. And it may sound a little crazy, but it feels so real inside of me, like I can perceive them.
Oh yeah, they store information. They have been there for hundreds or if not thousands, some of the trees. They've been witnessing every year, every cycle, every energy that's been around there. So it's like they literally store that information. And I also speak about like the mushrooms also do the same thing in a way. It's an entity. So everything stores that in a different way, and that for some people, if you are connected, it's interchangeable, the energy, the information, the healing, that's why when we grow our own food, right, it's like a food for our soul, right? Because and trees, yeah, some of the trees are thousands of years old, and many the old ones don't exist anymore. So we could imagine the energy or the vibration we could have of these giant trees.
Yes, yeah, I literally.
Go ahead, Jen.
Okay, I literally one time we were out in the woods. I was with Dan, and a tree kind of spoke to me, and I could feel what had happened around the tree. I had seen a narrative, a story of what was going on, and in the tree, like you could see the image of what I was perceiving formed in a way that we could actually visually see it in the trunk and in the way the branches were.
Well, the one tree that the Jen's referring to, we found off in the woods. I mean, this thing has a huge face in it. Almost it looks like it's a wood carving, but it isn't. And it has snakes on its head, like almost a little bit like a Medusa thing. And I kind of jokingly said, go ahead, Jen, lay hands on it and see if you feel anything. And then she almost had like a vision, and it was kind of like, hard to believe, but it really got me thinking, could there be like a soul or spirit of someone trapped inside of this? Or, did a spirit want to manifest so badly that it took a tree? That seems hard to believe because, it's going to be a long time before it even got big, you know what I mean? But, or possibly some of them, and then maybe not all, are actual spirited sentient beings. I think it's possible for sure.
Oh yeah, it was showing you that it's conscious. That's what it was doing. It was a transfer of information or energy or vibration, right? In that moment.
Yes, it was powerful. And I kind of view trees as like hair or fingernails, that we can perceive that part. You can cut fingernails or hair and it doesn't really hurt it. But I feel like there's so much more in the dimensional realms where our normal eyes can't see, but our spiritual eyes can.
Exactly. And speaking about tree, the tree of life, the central tree is also representation of a tree, right?
Yes.
And that's why the importance of North Pole in all different cosmologies too. It's because it's that vibration there of central north, magnetic north, or the mountain, or the center of the toroidal field, whatever we want to call it, but it represents the same thing.
I think trees are incredible.
So yeah, in ancient time, this could have been, and for sure in extra lands or beyond, these people that they don't let us go, there could be trees that are still really big, so.
Hey, I'd like to point out at a lot of different, what I'd call like mud fossil sites is what I've called them for years, even though my definition on mud fossils has changed drastically. I mean, I do believe in mud fossils by definition, but it technically would have to have been basically instantly covered and sealed in mud, which, it seems reasonable with the mud flood theory and all that. But a lot of this stuff was, like I was saying, flash frozen. Thing was like frozen, turned to stone, instant, almost like some kind of Medusa effect.
That's
But what I was getting at was a lot of petrification,
and
vitrification.
that
But a lot
happened.
of these sites, what I was going to say is, I've noticed that the trees that literally sometimes even growing out of these rocks, really more than not tend to display these really weird looking faces in the trees kind of stuff. So I think it's something tied in with that, and if they are mud fossils or cooked beings and creatures and people, then the trees are growing out of that,
That's pretty cool.
Anyway.
Yeah, the process of petrification can actually happen really, really fast, because there's been petrified stuff, animals, and
they have a petrified leg and a boot that the company closed it in 1901 or something crazy.
And the petrified,
I've even seen a petrified cassette.
A tape?
Yeah, like a cassette tape. I saw a picture of it. Like, it looked like it was stone, but there's no way that was. It just looked too much like, a regular old cassette tape that we used to use.
That's crazy. But you got
right.
I do definitely consider the DEWs the direct energy weapons through all of this narrative right now, though.
Definitely. I was just going to throw in that I seen some of the animals that were supposedly burned in some of the California fires, and they're vitrified, and it really reminded me a lot like a lot of this mud fossil stuff, which got me thinking that this stuff is just cooked.
And
I mean, you see melted bricks. I mean, what does it take to melt bricks to where they're like gooey looking? I mean, you're talking, and I don't even know how hot, but a lot hotter than any ovens would get.
It looks more like frozen in time, because if you see the reactions or the faces, they look very like, doesn't look like they all just like was
Right.
it looks, everyone is in a different pose, everyone is like doing different things,
Right.
everyone is like different, and many looks like they're conscious, they're like letting you know that that we see you.
I've joked for years, even though it's not really funny, like, man, this guy was petrified when he was petrified.
I can literally feel their energy, the fear, the anxiety, the run kind of mentality that was going on when I went, especially like that one at the Sphinx site. When I put my hands on it, I could feel a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of fear and anxiety.
Oh yeah, and these are the obvious ones, like there are these kind of, when we see, they are very obvious ones. It's not very difficult for people to see, but there are some places that are magical. Why? Because you see that landscape and you see a whole piece of universe, you could say, because it's not just one person or one animal or one technology or robot or sphinx. It's just a mix of everything, and it's like literally, it's like a portal, because you can literally see these faces in minerals, right? And some of these faces are like, in a way, the looks are so conscious that they are telling you with their looks that they can see us the way you are seeing them, they are seeing us. So not all could be that they were destroyed or they were like petrified. Some could be just like, just a different dimension, or peeking through, just a conscious, because these, as we said, these mountains could be conscious or have conscience, could be, because they are not moving for us, because maybe in this three-dimensional, in our dimension, they are solid and they can move, but they might, as we portray them, because it could be, just.
Sure.
That is how it feels when I'm around them. It feels like they're still alive and that they have consciousness and, they're thinking and seeing. That is how it feels to me.
Well, Jen and I had talked about, like, say they were interdimensional or just in another dimension, and maybe their speed of movement, for us to even notice they moved, might take 50 years to notice they just kind of moved a tiny bit or something like that.
Sure.
Exactly. And there are loads of these mountains who are like so obvious. Even the Mount Everest is supposed to be the face of a titan.
Wow. Hey, back in 2003, we booked a place up in New Hampshire to go see what they call the Old Man in the Mountain, and that's a famous place in the United States, in New Hampshire. It's on the back of the quarter. In 1926, they had it on the license plate, and so it's got a really great history. But what happened was, so we got there in July, or whatever, June or July, to go see this thing, but it fell down that 3 months before that in 2003. So,
that is where I grew up, in New Hampshire, and I had visited the Old Man on the Mountain numerous times, and it was phenomenal and incredible, and it was really sad when it fell and broke my heart.
Yeah, I was disappointed. We got there. We were talking to like someone in a restaurant, like, yeah, we're here to see the Old Man. They were like, oh, well, you missed it.
I almost
months.
have to wonder if stuff like that's so obvious that it was taken out on purpose, like Mount Rushmore or something.
Right. all the old buildings, you know, the more significant ones are gone, I have to think. The more grander they were, the more impossible it was, and the more obvious it was that we didn't do that.
Right. The more I look, I mean, the way I was brought up and the things that were taught to me, I look at the world around me. I'm like, no, nobody had a clue. Whoever spoke those words, and I've kind of thrown everything out. And I'm like, I want to start at ground zero, and I want to know the truth. I don't want to know what people are trying to feed to me and what people want me to believe. I want to know the truth. And my mind, ever since this was years ago, I think I was just a teenager, my mind has been open to want to see the truth. And I think having that open mind has helped me see far, far more things.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, the best part is that all the cosmology speaks about it, right? And what is really petrification? What is the definition they try to give us, right? They define it as turning people to stone. And it's a common theme in folklore and mythology, as well as in some works of modern literature.
That concept has always influenced my mind because I tend to often look at ancient works, ancient writings, or even, even in our culture and time, I like to look at the fiction and the nonfiction and try to deduce what they're trying to say. And one of the things that has appeared a lot is either trees walking or, the whole idea about the stones and even them crying out.
Like truth is stranger than fiction. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, Vikka, but I was gonna say, even like Greek mythology, and like they talk about, Medusa, you could turn stuff instantly to, marble, stone. They talk about the gods turning beautiful people into stone just for their garden statues, and all the way into modern times, fairly modern, but Narnia and the witch turning everything into stone. But they did come back. They did come back from the stone, at least in Narnia.
I think it's viable that they're still alive and that they're in a different speed or a different dimension for a moment, or they might exist in all the dimensions and we only exist in a few and we can only see part of them.
Oh yeah. And there are many stories in all these folklores and different cultures, and they talk about the origin of prehistoric megalithic monuments, stone circles, monolith, the Mary Maiden stone circle.
Hey, and what about the city of Pompeii?
Exactly. They say it's because of the volcanic eruption.
Ash. Yeah, they said that the volcanic ash just turned everything into stone, and I always found that really weird, because they would say that
wouldn't you burn at that first? Wouldn't it disintegrate first?
Yeah, yes,
it would.
They would burn up first. And
what happened there?
they would find people in bed, sleeping. A dog is like suffering. It's turning. It's in pain. You can see that it's in pain. In movement, is captured in movement.
Similar to all the mud fossils, whatever you want to call them, statues. Biogeology would be a much better term than mud fossils, I think. But anyway, point being, the same as a lot of the other statue stuff, they knew something was going on, and they were like instantly cooked. The Pompeii, I heard at one point they said it was all ash, and that they were pouring some kind of, I don't know, not concrete, but something into these ash, and it would leave these imprints of the stuff at Pompeii. But I think that's just baloney. I think
Yeah.
these things are just what's left of vitrified people.
Yeah, it looks more like petrified than anything of the volcano because the heat and everything, it won't have time, like to be like in a action, like in a moment, right?
That ash doesn't add up to the positioning of all those people. And what else Pompeii is noted for throughout history was the ash. What the ash is for the concrete they were able to produce with it that you can't get anymore. Because concrete has a shelf life of about 198 years. Allegedly, it gets hard for 99 and starts to break down for 99.
I think they even call it fossil ash.
Oh, from Pompeii?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure. No.
No, it could be. It sounds about right.
But I don't think they're very well like Noah's flood, the Great Deluge, what have you. They know that the thing was flooded at some point. I mean, they find fish fossil on the highest mountains, whale fossils in the desert. They know it was flooded, whatever you want to call it, at some point. But I really think there's more than was just one major event. That it's like ongoing events.
Right. It's like every couple of 100 years or so, it seems, possibly.
It absolutely seems that way to me.
Yes, I think it was a combination of stuff, of things happening there during the flood. Because, I mean, if we think that that civilization was, much intelligent and they were building all these buildings with free electricity and all that, I'm convinced that that was already going on there before the flood. So you have all these buildings with energy, with electricity, and then Noah getting the directions to pitch the ark, not only on the outside but also on the inside. And if you think about it, pitch is a sort of rubber, which is not conductive. And he was ordered to stay in the ark for, well, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But after that, he wasn't allowed. They weren't allowed to go to just hop out of the ark. They were ordered to stay in the ark until God opened the door, and there were a whole year in the ark. And if you think about it, I mean, imagine all these buildings with all that electricity and energy going on, and then it all fills with water. I mean, what's going to happen there? The biggest short circuit event, which probably had enough energy to petrify everything in it. So that's the kind of pieces of the puzzle that I'm fitting in. Just listening to people just sharing their ideas and their thoughts on that. And this was one of the biggest of the puzzle pieces for me.
That's an incredible understanding, and it seems very likely.
Good. Yeah.
Because we know of, we call it Tartaria or, the mud floods and all that. But what if it wasn't a mud flood? I mean, when you have, when the flood happened, it didn't happen, just the water going up and down. I mean, it was rough. I mean, the whole land was messed up. And then when it settles down, it just creates a
layer,
sort of
a layer of mud.
A layer of mud, yes. So that could have been that. And And yeah, that all that stuff of Tartaria and I wasn't really totally convinced of that. I mean, there's evidence of it because we have all these buildings and the three energy and all that. So we already know about that. But how does it fit in?
Yeah, we were discussing this in the another podcast about the Tartaria and maybe just the name Tartaria being used, but it could be that it's Atlantis, because we spoke about because the technology used in these constructions for us it's freaking amazing, but there's technology and construction that exists that is 1,000 times more awesome than what we can see around us.
Yes.
Right. So everything is possible. The other thing I wanted to mention, is in the Homer Odyssey, it is recounted that the god Poseidon turned the ship into a stone. In the punishment for their having helped his foe Odysseus, with one blow from the flat of his hand, he turned her, like the ship, into a stone and rooted her to the bottom of the sea. In classical time, the small island of Pontis Conisi of Corcyra was identified as a petrified ship. So here sounds more of a technology that can turn anything into a petrified rock.
Some piece of technology that can harness a lot of energy.
Well, we think it's a lot of energy, but we really don't know. I've heard once or twice also the theory that some of the old cathedrals and all the old stone buildings, any of the detailed ornamental beauty of them could have been carved out of wood and then turned to stone.
Definitely.
I thought that was very interesting.
Hey, back to what Evelyn was talking about a little bit. I've thought too, the Earth being almost like an electromagnetic motor, but it spins. It doesn't spin, but everything spins around it rather. Okay, but creating friction and heat and energy. All right, what if something so catastrophic happened, like the Earth actually stood still, or not the Earth, but everything else stood still, and maybe even went the other direction. And, speaking with the flood scenario, the whole Earth or plane, it's called, covered in salt water. I mean, you can't get much more of a better electrical kind of, environment to just cook everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we know we have done the electric sun, and where it speaks about the whole atmosphere being with the gas and reacting with the electromagnetic fields of the earth and creating that charge. Yeah, and all the illumination of the gases and the skies. Yep.
I seen them take straight salt water and create energy with radio waves.
Oh yeah.
So,
Even even LED lights. Yeah, just from salt water.
Yeah, but there's no money in that, so they don't want us to know about that stuff.
Oh yeah. And then there is also speaks about Heracles when fighting the Nemean lion was helped in this labor by an earthborn serpent which followed him to the Thebes and settled down in Aulis. It was later identified as the water snake which devoured the sparrow and was turned into a stone. Then we have Lathea is a mythological character mentioned in Ovid Metamorphosis. Due to her vanity, she was turned into a stone by Ida, by the god. Her lover Olenus wished to share in the blame. And in the same Metamorphosis, when Mercury comes to seduce mortal virgin Herse, her sister Aglarius is driven by her greed to help him. Minerva discovers this and is furious with Aglaros. She seeks the assistance of Envy, who fills Aglaros with so much envy for the good fortune of others. She turned to stone. Mercury fails to seduce. Then we have the magical Theusmasian fox sent by the gods to punish the Greeks, could not be caught. Amphitryon set on the fox the magical dog, Lilaps, who was destined to catch everything it chased. Zeus, faced with an inevitable contradiction due to the paradoxical nature of their mutually excluding abilities, turned the two beasts into stone. The pairs were cast into the stars and remain as Canis major and Canis minor. In the Catholic hagiography of Saint Barbara, it is recounted that when the saint was pursued by her sword-wielding father Diocorus, after he learned of his daughter's acceptance of the new faith, her location was given away by a shepherd. The shepherd was punished for his deed by being turned into a stone. A village of Kolobutsky in Czech Republic, there's an alleged prehistoric menhir with the height of 3.3 meters, 11 feet, the tallest in Czech Republic. It is an upright, lonely, standing stone. That's the shepherd turned into the stone. In another Czech village, there's a sandstone Marian column from 1674 and a man-sized stone. A man turned into a stone surrounded with legends of the punish. There are so many in different places where all these legends, we could call, it's so much ingrained in their culture. Like in the Icelandic legend about an island of Drangey says that two night prowling giants, a man and a woman, were traversing the area with their cow when they were surprised by the bright rays of a daybreak. As a result of exposure to the daylight, all three of them turned into stone. Like, for example, the mountain of Ontria, looming over the area of Saitoli in the present-day Greece, is known for its forest, freshwater springs, and old legends about girls who turned into stone. The local legend of Mitchell Fold, a Bronze Age stone circle in Shropshire, England, tells of a giant whose marvelous cow gave unlimited amount of milk. A legend told at the Karnak states that the Karnak stones were once pagan soldiers who were turned into stones by a pope named Cornelius. In the Asian part, we have like two sisters who led a rebellion against the Chinese rule. According to one legendary account, when finally overwhelmed by China army, the sisters threw themselves into a giant river in order to avoid the capture. They were turned into statues. In
Hey guys,
Japan.
you know
Yeah,
what?
go ahead. Go
Vic, I
ahead.
want to bring this up before I forget that Dan, you'll know this, but I want to tell everybody that Roger, the guy who was talking about, the guy from Mud Fossil University, he sent samples of stone dust to a couple of places like Yale and Harvard to get DNA tests from them on this, and they both came back with human mitochondrial DNA, which is from your mom. So and then when the guy went back to try and talk to people about this, like, oh, hey, that was stone, by the way. All right, Dan, jump in, bro. What more do you know about that story with Roger, with with him getting like harassed by like officials telling him he better stop or he's going to get arrested and stuff like that? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, he has DNA samples. He would take, what was clearly a fossil, something, whatever. I've seen some stuff he has that he claims are
Like a
lungs. They look
fingertip or
pretty legit. And he would drill into
right?
them, he'd wear gloves, everything, so it's not contaminated, and pull out, like you said, rock powder dust and send it in for a DNA sample, and it came back, all totally human.
Mm-hmm.
Out of what he's saying was, I don't remember exactly, but like a hand or a foot or a finger maybe that was, huge.
Yeah, I think it was a hand from what I remember. Yeah, finger. Yeah, finger. He's got a palm of a hand, like where your fingers meet the top part of your hand. He's got that four jointed palm piece of your palm, and it's about 3 feet across and half 2 feet tall. You know, he's got some crazy things. Mud Fossil University, right?
Definitely.
I thought that was worth throwing in there because that's what this guy's saying. He's got 2 different places of that, that nature, saying, "Yeah, that's human," and now they won't talk to him. They're,
Definitely.
they even
He's definitely, really onto some stuff when it comes to, the mud fossil. They call him the grandfather of
right.
mud fossils, and I respect the guy, but I don't agree with him
Sure,
on everything, but I still respect him, and he is brilliant in a lot of different
right.
ways, But also want to remind me of,
I agree.
or I was going to say the soldiers, reminded me of that thing in China, they call it terracotta, whatever,
Yeah.
armies,
Okay.
Yeah.
and their life size, and I've looked at them as close. I've never been there personally. My parents actually were there, and I have even seen some of their footage. And not just the ones they show you up front, but they keep going and going and going, and every single one is different. They're not from a mold. And I've seen them they're repairing them, touching them up. Some of them with their heads off, with a couple good neck shots, and like it just looked biological to me. Some of it, Plus, that would make more sense. And
Right.
someone made these thousands of, all different but perfect, soldiers. You know,
Yeah, it could
Like
be
Angelo.
yeah, petrified, and the whole army was just like frozen in time, and and that's why they could excavate and find this, and now they're making up whatever, right? That if somebody made it or left it there for the king, right?
Well, I'm sure you guys probably seen, it was like a Buddha statue, guy with his arms and legs crossed. And they x-rayed this thing, and you could see the perfect imprints of the skeleton and the rib cage and everything inside of this statue. So I wonder how
Oh, I
much
know what you're talking about when they did the X-rays.
literal actual x-rays of this whole statue. And I wonder how much
Right.
of that is really this stuff, this so-called statues. I mean, I like to jokingly say, hey, don't get me wrong, I believe in statues, but some of this stuff are not, this stuff was living at one time, no doubt.
Now there are
At
some
least,
pieces, like the famous ones with the lace. Like I don't know if I think that was carved. And just because I can't do it doesn't mean it can't be done. But I've worked with stone a little bit, and it's not real easy. Sure, maybe if
no.
you're working at a stone place, you're given square pieces that are marked out, or but
Or,
it takes years to
e-
do that.
even like, Michelangelo stuff, like, I heard this somewhere, but where's all his ones that weren't perfect? You tell me every single one he
Yeah,
did was right. There should be piles of
right.
ones he effed up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But right, not one of them, nothing. And they that fresco he did was the Sistine Chapel,
Yeah.
right? They said he did that, and I don't know exactly who, if it was just him, but frescoes are wet plaster of Paris with colored pigment added, and you do the art with the wet plaster of Paris. And I don't know if you ever work with that stuff, but it has a lifespan of like 40 seconds, and the color matches and the time involved. I just don't buy that anymore. That can't be real.
Uh,
We couldn't do that
Not
now.
just that, the also like imprints. Like I'm thinking, like a lot of the statues, you can see like someone's hands. The fingers are visibly digging into the other person.
Right.
Um, and ropes, stone ropes, out of marble. I mean, come on.
Right. And the lace. And you can't forget to mention tombstones. I was recently in Brooklyn in Greenwood Cemetery, and it's pretty famous. A lot of famous people buried there. And yeah, man, they got stunning artwork in that place, sitting on the ground all over the place. Just the entrance alone is like, wow. It's pretty incredible.
There's some old ones from like 1800s in Cleveland that are
Okay.
pretty impressive with that kind of stuff.
Cemeteries?
And yeah, cemeteries,
Yeah.
and a lot of it, got Rockefeller kind of people in it,
Okay.
and impressive, for here in Cleveland. It's near Cleveland is pretty, amazing because it's just as good as some of the stuff you see in France or wherever,
But
you know.
oh, you guys got just
And
all kinds of
it's
great
stuff
stuff
that
over
should be in a museum, and people have them on their tombstones,
there. Right?
you know, because this stuff was a dime a dozen at one point when they're excavated. I really believe that.
I've also seen similar statues and structures in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as well. And to me, what I find the most amazing is across the whole earth, everything has very similar structure, design, and the statues are very similar too in their quality.
That's true, right? They have a very similar feel to them.
Yeah, because it was made by the same people, or the information, the knowledge was from the same root. That's why it's so similar. Like, for example, the Sphinx also is everywhere in a way.
Wow. And the buildings and the star forts.
Oh yeah, and the upside down temples, the wells.
Oh, right. The stepwells.
That's crazy stuff, brother. That I have been to this wells. It's like you are it's like you are tripping. You just look down, it's like you're totally geometric.
Perfection. Oh my God. Same thing, guys. When you're building something like that in a square and you taper into the center, if you're off on one level, your whole thing's off and you're not going to meet the center and it's going to be off. And that's all there is to it. It's very difficult to come up like that. And that's why they don't do them anymore. And that's why I'll just say that's why I think that the more grand, spectacular ones were torn down. It's because it's just too obvious that we didn't do that. So.
Another similarity that I've noticed, and whether I'm really just having a vision or, I can't even tell you for sure, but I know that I've been shown structures that are in a place that I might call mid-heaven, or it's wherever my spirit can see, but my flesh can't. And the buildings are huge like that there too. Like there's this hall of records and the libraries, and they're massive. Like if I were to stand there, I would look up and I feel like an ant. And so that has stuck out in my mind too, the similarities that I've seen.
Yeah, the celestial court, in a way.
Yes, it's incredible, the depth of the reality that we are part of and how much we can't see, and it's phenomenal and incredible.
That kind of reminds me. I think I was talking with Gene earlier. Like they do everything. They is kind of a vague term, but to block our spirituality. From fluorides and aluminum and chemicals in our water. They kill our water. Which needs to be alive for us, and they try and kill, block our pineal gland. So good or bad, we have no spirituality is what they want.
Absolutely. That's the most heavily targeted organ in the whole body, among everything else. But the pineal gland is what they want.
Yeah, we had a whole podcast on that, right? A few weeks back. Awesome.
Well, I've seen pictures depicted of the snakes trying to attack the pineal gland.
I think it's we discussed it in other podcasts. Like it's the whole idea of the whole, if you want to call it religion, belief. The important message there is to open the pineal gland, right? It's the ultimate coming of Christ supposed to be, right? Because as I mentioned, Mount Meru, like it's about the star on the top of the Christmas tree. The pineal gland is the Mount Meru, right? The Egyptians call it Mer. And where did the word Merry Christmas come from? Meru. Just one example. The importance of having that eyes so you can see all this and the rest, right? Anyway, guys, we're going to be... Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Well, just to be able to see the similarities between them all.
Oh, yeah, because it's same way as the shape of the earth, or what we are discussing today, or about the eye, right? The all-seeing eye. It's all interconnected, right? And that's the message of different that they're trying to tell us in a way, right? Anyway, guys, we're gonna have a break for a few minutes, and we're gonna be right back. All right?
Okay.
Very cool.
See you guys in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
stay in Wonderland. Stay in Wonderland.
Our level Earth plane is the Achilles heel of the New World Order. This subject, supposedly the most ridiculous of all conspiracy theories, mocked and ridiculed for centuries as being an ignorant, unscientific worldview, is actually one of the most easily demonstrable and empirically evidenced facts of reality. When humanity finally wakes up to the truth of our level plane Earth, it will usher in a veritable new age of enlightenment, a renaissance of common sense, and an opportunity to finally and forever expose and expunge these deceivers among us. Truth. It is singular and eternal. Truth has always been here, among us, and it will always be here. It is our perception that must be aligned with it.
Testable, repeatable scientific facts of our level, motionless plane Earth that have been suppressed and ridiculed for centuries in favor of various unobservable, untestable, unscientific theories purporting we live on a tilting, wobbling, spinning, ball-shaped Earth.
You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
All right, welcome back, guys, to the show. We have Jean, we have Evelyn, and we have special guests Dan and Jen Sphinx. Yes, welcome back to the show. And yeah, a quick shout out to the people in the chat. There's Queen M, Mike Judnik, then it's Robert McIntosh, Biba Giant, Alan Nastron, and Aloha from Florida. So yeah, we are here discussing where rocks alive, so yeah, we have different ideas about what it could be, and the thing is, like, in every culture it's been showed in movies, in games. There are also famous movies like Troll. And as we spoke about the Norse cosmology, also it's really ingrained in this, the whole concept of giants, and the possibility that this could also be all a simulation, like a real game where we think it's all organic because it's all three-dimensional, but this all could be just a simulation, and all this is just created like a game. Could be totally possible. What you guys think?
I love that idea, and it's been presented over the years too, right? In theater.
Well, I was going to say I just slipped into cognitive dissonance or whatever you call it. But because it's just so hard, you can't wrap your mind around it. You'd have to kind of get out of your mind to wrap around it kind of thinking, But I did hear something recently. It was a guy, they fired him too, worked for NASA like for 25 years. And he monitored the same area of skies. And he said after 25 years of monitoring this, he's convinced it's like real on a loop, like just replaying.
What is the stars?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
Bro,
this is the guy that followed it, for 25 years, and he said it's on like a repeat. It's like on a loop, like repeats.
Yeah. Well,
From the 1700s to 2000 somethings, it's just repeat. Or there are some guys who say about that.
Yeah, I also wanted to shout out to Biba. This girl loves her giants. She has some of the best fossilized, whatever you want to call it, mud fossil dragons, and just a lot of it is what I would just call or called mud fossil scenes, because it's not just the one thing going on. It's a bunch of stuff all basically blobbed together quite often, which makes it really hard to make out, what the hell is this? Well, it's usually not just one thing,
No, it is everything. And some of the things are more obscure to connect together, though. But they all link together. We're all here, right?
Definitely.
Oh yeah, you could send the link to Biba if you want to join us. We are just half the way. So if
I could ask her. She's in Damascus, and it's like 2, maybe 3 in the morning. I'm surprised she's hanging with us. Thank you, Biba.
Yeah, Biba, if you're there,
for next time.
it would be great to have you. We'll see.
I had done some
Dan,
research.
Biba,
I had done some research on comparing and contrasting the Matrix / universe and to computer games, and the comparisons were impeccable. Like, if you go and you look at something, magnify it, it literally pixelates, just like if you're looking in a computer rendition. And that was the one thing that got my attention, were all the similarities that made me think twice and decide maybe to give up my worldview on some of those things.
Oh yeah, then the numbers, the sacred geometry, it's the presence of the creator or the creation we are in, right?
Yeah.
It's seen in everything.
Well, I was going to throw in, I've seen, not advocating anything particularly, but psychedelic type stuff where literally like you're like in between our realm and something else, and you can see this pixelization kind of a breakdown,
Yeah, it's called the net, right? In the Egyptians, they call it the net.
Nice.
And that's why they throw the net. So it looks very organic. It looks very... That's why it's sometimes so difficult for the people to really think that this could be just a simulation, right?
Like a high-tech video game.
It's so high-tech, yeah. It's so high-tech that it's so... Yeah, we're discussing that we could be biological artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah, sure. Little remote controls being controlled remotely
by us, by ourselves, right?
Right. And it is really true if you break it down, because your mind controls your body. So it is the intangible controlling the tangible, and that's the remote control.
Well, I kind of see our spirit and soul as being outside of time and space reality that we know it. And therefore, it being outside of time and space can influence things exponentially, at least in my theorizing. And I think that can help explain a few of the questions that some people might have.
Yeah, because they succeeded in making us believe that we are like time is linear and we are just linear beings. But in reality, it's not. It's
the antithesis of that.
So
I once kind of saw a vision of time, and because I was trying to ask, I'm like, what is this timelessness? What does it look like to be outside of time, and why do I see it linear? And what I saw was like this umbrella being held up over my head, and each droplet of rain was like maybe an event. And the way it fell on the top of the umbrella was not in order. It just dropped here and there and there and everywhere. But then the way I saw it, it came around a circle in a linear fashion because of the way it fell down into my time place. And so that helps me to understand that a little bit better by my picturing that.
Oh yeah, we could be controlling few of us like this in different places. Why only in here, right? Could be in various.
I kind of believe that. I have looked into and actually written about how we're kind of like our soul and our spirit is in like a server platform that's outside of time and space, and that each of our flesh bodies would be more like a computer terminal, and that each of these bodies would go back to the same computer server, but we could be existing in multiple different time places or in multiple dimensions, but all feeding back to that same one soul / spirit that's kind of in, outside of that time.
Yeah, like broadcasting.
Like Hilbert space, like maybe in Hilbert space kind of thing.
Yeah, broadcasting to the main source or reflecting from the main source, whatever we are trying to do here, right?
Right. And it also even says in scripture that, we kind of look in a mirror dimly, or that, this is not the real, but a representation of the real. And I felt like that's always kind of stuck out to me ever since I was very, very small, as being very important to understand that.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. Yeah, good point. And that's one of the things they do try to take away. I would just call it a fact, but that there is things beyond this world that kind of can't be measured by science. And that's what's ruling this world.
Right, kind of like what I was saying, to totally block our spiritual side for the good and the bad. Like I believe like people that they'll call it like a chemical imbalance or whatever, and that's never been isolated or proven. The whole thing pushing a lot of the psych meds and all that is strictly on the fact that they want to sell psych meds. But and what it does, I think, it seems to help. Sure, it's like say someone's at the spiritual matter, and you call it possessed, whatever you want to call it, like multi-personality or something, and they give them these drugs. Well, it shuts that up, and it seems to do work. You know what I mean? But it also will be at the same time be blocking out. Could be blocking out any good influence or spirit type, thing.
Sure.
But yeah, that's all on purpose, man.
Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Just talking about this made me think of the old insane asylums, which is part of the buildings of old and their refurbished purposes and the ideas behind that. That's a whole different show, but those buildings are in there. The buildings are all over the place. So
that I mean, it doesn't make sense why in the like mid 1800s, whenever there's all these huge, giant, 1,000-person, sanitariums or whatever, and very, plausible theory is these are the people who weren't going along with the new program for whatever reason.
Right. The ones that they couldn't hold back, kept talking.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's about one of the only theories I've heard too. I'm not sure what to think about it, but it does not make any sense that to put all that time into those buildings for people on the outskirts of society, crazy people, right? That doesn't make any good sense. So, narrative nonsense.
No, yeah. There'll be this little town they're living in, like log cabins and hut, and here's this like Greek architecture looking giant building. There's like a town of 5,000 has got 1,000-person sanitarium. You know.
Right. In the woods up north.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But you know, we used to go up in the Hudson, and there's all the old mansions from the Vanderbilts and all those type people, the Robin Barrers, right? Robert Barons, I think it was. But it was 20 years ago or better, and I had no idea what I was looking at. So I wish I could go back to them and check them out now.
Cool. So the other thing I wanted to continue,
that just made me think of the sanitary fairs. What were they really sanitizing? You know, some of the world fairs, and some of them are actually called this, sanitary fair or whatever. Like, what the hell does that mean? You know?
Is that really? They called them that?
Some of them, yeah.
Oh wow, I never heard that. Interesting. So they were doing a cleansing.
I think a lot of the Civil War was, cover up and unburying a lot of whatever happened.
Right.
Or like all the railroads, I've seen a lot of old, their government railroad and government documents. They were called, railroad reclamations. They weren't saying they were building it; they were saying they're reclaiming it, like digging it up, kind of thing. Is what it sounds like.
And there's a lot of pictures, and some of them are even in the city, in Manhattan or whatever, of what appears to be them digging out railroad tracks. That doesn't look like they're putting them in by any means. But don't forget, guys, that the first photo manipulation patent was applied for in 1843 for political gain. All right, so be aware of everything.
Yeah, that kind of. You would think you could trust old pictures, but some of them you really can't. And cameras, I mean, the narrative on cameras is baloney. I mean, they've had types of cameras, for hundreds of years.
Yeah, these could be AI generated images, some of them, because for many it could be like thinking these are real because they're in black and white. We don't know real purpose or the real story behind that. We could have some ideas about what could be happening or what happened, right? Because for us, that's like the AI is generating images is right now. But as we spoke, right, the technology, the ones who control the technologies is much more ahead than we could imagine, right? So it's could be just a part of the game to keep us not right on track, right?
Right. Looking the other way.
I think the AI, as a whole, is definitely influenced in a spiritual sense, but not in a good way. Even Elon Musk said something along the lines of, the old movies when the wizard, he's got his little pentagram circle and his little spells and herbs and all that, usually don't work out good for the guy. This is like AI. You're letting the genie out of the bottle. And this is a guy, if anybody knows, regardless of what you think of him, he probably knows something. You know what I mean? And he's saying this is dangerous.
Yeah, he's out there just saying that so they can say, well, we told you. That's my idea on it.
Yeah, but this could be taking us for a big disaster because in the coming future, right? Maybe there is no future, right? Because of what could happen and what these technologies is already evolved or what they have.
Well, you see the videos of the robots that they're going to start handing out to places to keep people in line, and the capabilities of these things. Who knows what number G these things carry around with them, right? They could have some sonic, control mechanisms in there, crowd control, all kinds of whatever. Who knows? But
I think they have been
the
warning us
physical,
against these.
yeah, right. They've been saying it for a long time, and I guess we're just softened up now. If I'm not mistaken, there could be a place in Manhattan with a robot cop in it right now,
Wow.
patrolling like Times Square or something like that. Yeah, I think so. I've seen a robot in like an A&P or whatever. It's like I
Yikes.
want to just stop and walk out of the store, kind of. Yeah, because you know how many pictures that thing takes of you. It scans everything on you. You could probably, you know, do your whole medical history from them things. I don't know. I know it's a little weird, but
I get concerned not
this
only
place.
of photos, but even our DNA and, going to hospitals and getting procedures or blood drawn. I've stopped trusting like all of that.
The butchers. Yeah.
But even what they might be
Well,
storing with our DNA.
I've even seen, well, now we know it to be fact, but I suspected for years this whole like 33 and Me or whatever, all the DNA, uh,
Mm.
history
Yeah.
and all that stuff. That now they have and own. It even says if you read the fine print, a copy of your DNA. And I suspect that there's some people looking for specific DNA traits, possibly. But either way, if you've done that, they have your DNA on file somewhere, and they could do whatever they want with it. And like, assuming they're quite more advanced than we know, they probably can make clones of anybody.
That's exactly what I was thinking. People don't like, what are they going to do? I'm like, hey, well, when you rob a bank in California and you were in Florida, then you're going to care. Or, set a bomb off or whatever it is. They'll do something crazy if they want. If three of you running around doing crazy crimes.
I've even heard of celebrities talking about, oh, there's 3 clones of me. I can't do all of this all at once, and then making light of it and laughing it off. But it makes me wonder.
Yeah, I think I've heard that too once or twice. You see those clips where they admit things like that. I sold my soul. Kinds of a bunches of them saying stuff like that. And right, they do. They say it like they're joking around. They giggle. And I take it more serious than that. I think it's just flat out admitting it.
Oh, yeah, it could be artificial. It could be a mix, right? So
That made me think of. I remember seeing some of the old World Fair baby incubators, and some of the claims where they could take a newborn and make it the size of a 1-year-old in like 12 hours. So I mean, what was going on with that? Maybe the incubators and all that, they weren't natural babies. Is kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, or like electroculture or something like that. Like people do with their plants now. I'm trying that out. I don't know if it works, but that's where the Cabbage Patch Kids came from too, right? The
Yes.
same idea. They kind of right. Yeah, they
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Like they grew them.
Look at those
They're not
spots
real.
over those things.
Yeah, Keith is saying in the chat, Vikka has been
Right.
cloned.
And Seinfeld said
Definitely, Keith. Spot on.
Seinfeld had an episode where he said his father was incubator baby. I don't know if that means anything. I heard that recently.
Oh yeah, the
They
Matrix
had
thing
those in Coney
speaks.
Island.
The Matrix thing speaks about this, right? We are in a kind of like the Avatar capsule, and we are in the game here. Looks very similar, no? Like what we are speaking about, the incubator. yeah, we also spoke about this, right? The material, the three-dimensional, and the light, right? Being dense, and the frequencies, the lower the vibration, the denser we are, right? So that's why we are perceiving this denser reality for us. That's why there are some things is out of this world, because we cannot really differentiate, right, the physical and the real us, or everything around us is real or no, right? So really these mountains are there unreal, or it's just a vibration or frequency that's happening that we see as rocks, right?
Well, the way it's described like that, bro, that's exactly what it is high-tech illusion, from what we would probably explain it, like, high-tech sound. It's a wave of light. It's so dense it becomes physical, so slow. That's why they want to attack the pineal gland, because when you start to be able to connect with stuff inside you where they don't want you to be.
I just listened to an Audible book I'm listening to about energy, and she was discussing how babies have great perception of the energy around them in the spiritual world that they're existing in, and that may be why a newborn might glance over to the side or look above or look beyond you, because they're seeing so much more. And it's colors and lights and beautiful sounds. There's just so much more in the spiritual reality than in this flesh world, which feels almost dead and dormant compared to the soul realm and the spiritual realm.
Yeah, because everything we perceive, we think we only perceive it with those five senses, but there are supposed to be many senses. And when we are pure, we are like one with the conscious, or one with the, that's why we are with all our senses. We are not being indoctrinated by all the, when we grow up, with all the things they put in us that disconnects us from all these different senses, those extra senses, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's why,
they
yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Well, I was going to say, they bombard things that are detrimental to all of our senses that we do know, and then they don't teach us about the ones that we don't know. That's a bad combination.
And I believe the deprogramming or reprogramming starts in infancy in the world that we're in.
Sure it does, right? From day one, they're shoving a globe in your face.
Right, like baby mobiles. How many of them are planets and and the whole solar source, dinosaurs? Yes, like all the narratives.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse all over the place. I'm like amazed that people still just go there. I guess haven't they heard anything? This is, I don't know.
That's the difficult part. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think a lot of people don't want to go there. I think it messes up their comfortable world, and they just don't want it to change, and so they blind themselves to a degree as well, I think.
Yeah, the other way.
Yeah, what they indoctrinate from the age of 7 to teenager is the worst age to put in the kids, and that's the hard part the Globers are having, because it's so indoctrinated inside, because it's at that particular age, it's been pushed, so it's so difficult to get away from it. That's the difficult part.
Yeah.
All those who deny that is because of the most important reason is this, because nobody want to accept it.
I really felt led. I have 7 children, and I felt led to homeschool them and keep them out of the indoctrination and to help them. I have a lot of problems with education, not being educated, but I feel like it's like more like a prison than a free environment to actually learn and teach problem solving and teach real learning. And that has always just been strong in my heart, that these kids need to be out in nature. They need to be barefoot in the grass. They need to be climbing rocks. They need to be learning about their world by touch and feel, and not stuck in a classroom always reading a book.
Oh yeah, they are creating just for that they memorize and do what the authority says. This is what they built, right? They don't want the kids to know the real science, the real connection with the nature, the real skills is required to survive. This is not being taught. They want to teach us the fake formula maths and the fake space, so it's very difficult for the masses to wake up to it, because also everything, the whole situation with the world and everything, the consumerism, everything is just making itself, the division, the religion, the politics, everything is just so intermingled with everything that it's going to be impossible for the majority to look and say, hey, what the hell is wrong? Because we all are manifesting this, right? And the majority is so lost in this indoctrination that it's very difficult, because once everybody understand and open their eyes, that's what the people needs to do, is to wake up. That's what is going to change the world, nothing else. Nobody needs to go and do a revolution to change the world. The change starts from within, right? Starts from there.
Yes.
So once we all manifest, then everything is possible, right? We also discussed about how the artificial intelligence, how the animals, how different things learn by themselves. Only one information goes to everyone automatically, right?
Right.
I like to half jokingly say, for example, sound frequencies and all the different frequencies, and I'm sure everyone's seen it, how they'll show sand on a plate, but at different frequencies. Yes, exactly. They don't just take random shapes. These are mostly taking sacred geometry type shapes and things of this nature. The joke part was like, wow, I guess they forgot to tell us about that in school. Wow.
Right? Not a mention of it ever.
They didn't teach us about 369 or anything. Wow, school sucked.
Exactly. They gave us all the fake stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
I remember as a kid being, looking forward to third and fourth grade, where I was going to get the bigger classes, history and science. I stuck with science more, lab stuff or whatever. It was fun. But history was very disappointing right away, and pretty much throughout. I was like, what is this stuff they're trying to tell us? Why is this wars, conquering this and that? It was all just, now I understand it's just what they wanted to pound into your head, what history was. But I don't know if I really believe most of those stories.
Columbus didn't discover Jack,
Oh yeah, the real education was for the few chosen one. The fake education is for the masses. Right now, but the times have changed. That's also what makes the difference. The real sciences they're not going to teach.
Hopefully enough. Not willing to look at the scenario over the past few years or so, even 10 years or so. It's just getting kind of more funky, it seems. So maybe enough people get tired of it and say,
Sometimes I think that changes are faster than the changes. And then that's when I think some of the programming has been rewritten because things just don't feel or seem right, and they feel off.
Well, kind of like I wanted to add to that, like a Mandela type effect, or even different timelines, which again seems really out there. But who knows? Like with the CERN stuff, and it isn't just CERN. I mean, there's hydrogen colliders, or what are they called? You know what I'm talking about. They're all over the world.
The
Specifically put,
Hadron Collider, yeah.
Hadron Colliders, specifically put,
Yep.
not just randomly, all of them are on specific ley lines and ley line points. And what it seems from their own, what they're saying behind the scenes kind of thing, they're breaking holes in the inner dimension, which I don't see how anyone could think that was a good idea, right? Oh yeah, we're breaking holes in the dimension, and they're even saying there's intelligent,
on the other
there's
side.
intelligent beings over there. It makes me more think of like blowing holes in the gates of hell kind of thing.
Well, that's the type of people that are doing this, though, bro. They're not well. They're not normal people. Any of these people in charge, we talk about all these systems that we got our information from. They're propped up to be these authorities, and that's how we're taught to believe that this is what the world is, and this is how it's shaped, and this is how it's going, natural progression of humanity. And I don't believe it, Dan, right? We were talking, people of, like, I grew up in the city. You could walk down a block and hear like 10 different conversations from 40 different people, right? And you don't understand anything that's going on, but there's no like fighting in the street and what have you. So yeah, you might get your pockets of places, but it's not, fighting and hatred and war and crime. I don't know if it's as widespread as we're led to believe. It's like, there's too many people on the planet until you drive out of a city and there's nobody around for miles and miles.
Yeah, it's possible. Like different people can be living here around each other, but could be living on a totally different frequency. Okay, it's totally possible, right? Just because the way the information is processed to one or other person could be totally living in a different level or different vibration. It's totally possible. So it's also possible that there could be timelines, and these timelines are different frequencies that you are living on. Right? So the conscious on what you're focusing on, which timeline you create because of your frequency, because of your understanding through your senses, what is happening, right? So it's possible that some timeline could end and you have to restart. So yeah, it's crazy. These people are experimenting with all this, trying to open different timelines or portals. We're speaking about technology that is much more ahead than we can even imagine. They are giving us just the breadcrumbs of all free energy and all the Tataria and all this stuff, right?
Yes. I think I can feel when timelines switch, just maybe the more extreme ones, but I mean, I've had a conversation with just any old human, and then a week later talk about that conversation, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about once or twice, because human memory can forget things. It's like a chronic thing that I've noticed, and it's a very strange feeling for me, because it just feels a little disorienting, and then I can tell when we've jumped back, and I'm like, wow, now we're back, and they remember. It's a strange phenomenon.
There are glitches. deja vu, you know?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
it's the opposite of deja vu almost. Definite glitches though. I think everybody gets them too, right, guys? A little precognition. People call you, you haven't seen them in years, you thought of them last week, and they call you. That could be just connecting in the ether, because it's instant.
I've
It's quicker than
actually
light.
I've seen times where I'm close to somebody in, like, let's say the Hilbert space. I'll be close to someone there and not close to them here, and then be like, I need to talk to this person, and then they will call. And I think that, the soul connections / spiritual connections outside of time might be responsible for some of those things happening here.
I wouldn't argue that at all. I think they're rooting for us. They're trying to help us out in those kind of mysterious ways, that if we do acknowledge them, they acknowledge us back as well. So it becomes stronger.
The other thing I wanted to mention about the minerals are really, like, we spoke in some of our podcasts that according to some cosmology, we are made of soil. And what is soil? Soil is mineral, right? What combination, whatever, but it's at its core level, it's mineral. And then we also have whatever we consume, really, it's also like mineral. The real properties of medicine or food is alkaloids. It's crystal, right?
Yes.
It's mineral.
Yes. Now that you bring up the crystal and mineral things, I also believe, like, a geode might be, brain matter, like the crystals or the amethysts. Oftentimes seems like it's something from an internal of a human body or an animal body or whatnot.
Exactly.
It does.
And we consume, everything, even caffeine at its pure level is crystal, sugar. We in the nutrients in their real forms are crystals, and we are consuming that. They even say that even water is supposed to be liquid crystal.
Yes,
right?
I've heard that. Yes, and it's a powerful one.
So what is the difference? Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Well, now what is 70% of us and the earth? And I would imagine some other animals, maybe plants, I don't know. Water is a huge component of what we are and where we are.
Exactly.
Magical.
And we think that we are just carbon life form, right? But when we are petrified, when we are degraded in the soil, we become minerals too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I want to bring something up. I remember like 25 years ago when the Science Channel was good, one of the scientists was talking about aliens, and he says, well, if I met an alien, I would say, I'm a carbon-based life form. And then I ask him, what are you? And the alien might say, well, I'm a silica-based life form. And that's what I really remember. But right after I heard that, I was like, what? Silica-based life form? That's just crazy. Because rocks are silica, right? And it just was just like absurd to hear the scientists say something like that. But now I'm like, oh, he was talking about the truth.
Right.
About some sort of an alien. Yeah, right. That's how I see that now. I wish I knew that guy's name.
That's important about water is we see how affected it is by the energies around it, how it takes form, how it responds to its environment. And because we have so much water in us, it makes us need to be very careful about the energies that we're around, because it can really alter and change our health in our bodies. And I think it's really important to understand that.
Because in Spanish, they say to salary, they say salario. the word comes from salt, right? Sal. They say, have your salts right to be in healthy. You need to have your salts right, all the minerals and everything what we are made of in reality. So have your salts right means to be in the best of yourself, to have all in the right quantities, right? So what we're speaking of, have your crystals right, no? So what is the difference, between this, where we think this is silica, we are carbon, or vice versa, or is a mix, or so look, it's all. So we aren't any difference from whatever is around us, right? We are part of this whole ecosystem in a way. We are integrated physically, like at a cellular level, at a spiritual level. We are part of this, right? That's why we see the reflection, right? Of
Yes, it's quite beautiful.
The earth
Yep.
is, I love the earth. It's so pretty. I wish they would stop trying to ruin it. I really do. It's so aggravating. But this
Hey,
place
like
is amazing.
Jen was saying a little bit ago about the insides of brain matter, especially, I think is what when it is petrified or whatever, turns into like the beautiful looking when you bust them open like a geode, And I think anything that had a lot of blood in it, like organs, hearts, livers, especially brain matter, the inside of that, because that's where the purples and the reds come from, is I think it was because there was a lot of blood at one point. So geodes are like busting heads open, which is kind of morbid, but in the name of science, once in a while, it's probably okay.
Yeah, and the gemstones. What about the gemstones? The real ones.
Yeah. The gemstones. So here's a good example. It's not well known, but there's a science of a way of cooking a person that's hopefully dead already, and they know they can end up with a diamond from what's left of that person.
Oh yeah, a 4-foot person into a diamond of a size of a nail, right?
And I think people know that there's certain diamonds made from certain people, and these are not well people, but they wear them knowingly, along with the shoes, probably.
The red shoes?
The red shoes, right.
Yeah.
And the crystals are supposed to have their own frequency and vibration that could be healing, that could be transformative, right? Why is that, right?
Well,
I can feel them.
Yeah, I think, and Jen does also, that some have a good vibe, or whatever you want to call it, and some have a bad vibe. Like, wow, like almost like a cold or hot. And most crystals, you can measure with a meter that it's putting off a plus and minus voltage.
I think that crystals are programmable as well. I think that it's more like a hard drive. And if you wipe a crystal clean, it can be programmed for good or programmed for evil. And I think in and of themselves, they're not either good or evil, but it depends on whose hands they've been in.
Oh yeah, that's why it has so many different culture are with different, like with the crystals and their energies and their vibrations, and no touching and sharing, and specific crystals for specific stuff, so, and also in the electro culture they use the white quartz. Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Right, and bro, I was just gonna say, if you take two crystals in a dark room and rub them together kind of quickly, you'll see them light up. inside. It's really, really cool.
Oh yeah, and also like minerals, resources that could be fuel, could be lithium, could be everything. It's supposed to be part of this geology of these giants, right? And all the extractions of these different,
Right. No, yeah, exactly. If that's what the world really is, made of all these pieces, and that we're from the dirt of it, or parts of it, we obviously are. So, yeah, it makes sense that we're just shrinking down and getting smaller and less knowledgeable about the real world we live in. And a lot of
exactly.
it's teaching now. A lot of it's just being taught, and that's the part that bothers me, because it's not fair. It's not right. You got to climb out of a hole that these people dug for you when you're little.
Exactly. For example, there's a very good stone called shungite. It's a black stone. They say that it's supposed to be only found in Russia. It's a part. And there was a lake in that part of this mineral. And anybody who used to drink the water of this lake used to heal. Right? So now this crystal is everywhere, right? This kind of a rock. And it has its own magnetic energy. It's not magnetic, but you can even try it out. If you connect negative and positive, it acts as a conductor, right? The stones is supposed to have properties. There's nothing magic about it. I'm just speaking about it's a mineral that works, has certain kind of vibration or frequency that heals us. Like, for example, you have a pain. Pain comes in waves, right? So if you take that stone and put it where you have a pain, it stops paining because it breaks those waves of the pain, right? I'm just giving an example. People even put it in water to purify water and drink with it. So these kind of minerals, what part of this giants could be this part of that mineral, for example, which is so curative, which is so healthy, it even avoids radiations, EMF, Wi-Fi radiations, or any kind of radiation.
Hey, I was just thinking, a lot of it, like I went up to New Hampshire with Daniel James Helms, look at a couple of his sites, and he's got some pretty good stuff, and he thinks everything's a turtle. Some of them, maybe turtles, but clearly what's a mouth with teeth on some of this stuff. And everything that was like in the mouth and teeth seemed to be like straight quartz, so if you're talking about a giant tooth, it might be the size of, a truck, right? And I think teeth are like a type of antenna if they're healthy, and that could be part of it, the whole thing right there. They got a natural antenna type quality. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know.
Well, I think that if you mix certain minerals together, that's when you get the different colored gemstones. So it might have to do with the, how much natural fluoride you have in a certain body, and how much natural, whatever the chemical makeup of like white howlite would be. I think that maybe that's like the start of where some of these gemstones may have come from.
Oh yeah, they also even speak about giving light. Some of these crystals have been used as technology to give light to places which are not above the surface.
Yes, they're really incredible. I've always been drawn to rocks and crystals, and I can feel them. They all have different frequencies that I can actually feel, and I think it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, with the colors and everything that it connects to for well-being. It's supposed to be also one of a tool.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I've even learned that like the frequency of a cat purr can actually heal certain parts of the human body. And I also have learned that the 7 musical notes, each one heals a different part of our human body. And I believe that the crystals go right along with that, along with lots of other frequency sounds.
Nice. Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah,
were just talking about that recently, right, Vika? As I
yeah,
recall.
exactly.
Right on.
Yeah, the seven luminaries, the 7 heavens, right?
Solfeggio.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
the
have a
solfeggio
research.
scale.
I'm researching, I call it the Sevens Research Project. And I have come up with like a table where all the different sevens, whether it's alchemy or the 7 levels in a soul or a soul house, whatever it might be, and the colors and the musical notes. And there seems to be in ancient writings and in historical documents ways to compare these and link them up into some kind of like a table chart. And it's intriguing to me how much seem to line up together and they don't seem to overlap.
Exactly, the 7 chakras.
Yes, it's incredible. I had no idea there were so many sevens out there, but it's phenomenal and how they're linked together. Like you have a certain chakra that's unhealthy and has negative energy in it, and there's a certain color of stone that you can, help to, relieve that negative energy in that certain chakra. But there's also a musical note that could help that as well. Like it's multifaceted and quite diverse. And
Hey, that just made me think of like the ancient Hebrew priests. They would wear this plaque around their neck on a chain or whatever that had all the certain particular stones in it, and it couldn't have looked very cool. So it wasn't a fashion statement. You know what I mean?
Hey, Jen, I wanted to tell you that a few months back, I've mentioned it on the show once or twice, so I don't mean to repeat myself, but I do like telling people that I had an issue with my shoulder and I was trying to avoid the doctor. And
mhm,
so, like you say, with the cat's purring being a healing
yes.
frequency, I tried to do it to myself and kind of hum on my shoulder, and I pictured. I did visualization with it, like it being amplified towards the area. And
Mhm.
as of now, I feel pretty good. I'm not anywhere near going to a
It's the way
doctor.
our bodies work, though. It is about frequency and energy. And I mean, our hands continue the electromagnetic field that our bodies are a part of. And so they're very
The
powerful in
mudras,
our own bodies. And
right?
and
With
we
the
can
mudras, right?
help with that. We can help move the energy so that it's supposed to be a constant motion. And I kind of equate chakras with portals, and I think they get clogged up with dark energy, and we got to pull it out of our bodies, and our hands are capable of pulling it out and releasing it and getting rid of it and filling it up with health and vitality. And we have an amazing bodies that are capable of far more than what this world tells us they're capable of.
I agree.
Yeah, also having like holes in the energy, losing those energy because of low vibrations. You could have escaping of energy. That's why we are
Yes,
drained
yeah.
out of energy. And also we were speaking about this in one of our podcasts too, about the sound, the importance of sound for healing, the importance of sound for manifestation itself, right?
Sure. And
Yes,
as well as
yes.
the cathedrals with the pipe organs and the stained glass windows and the climatic patterns with the sound going through it, amplifying through the climatic pattern, where the stained glass is more modern. You got to picture it without the stained glass there. So you picture
Right,
the
right.
sound, right? The sound going
Hey,
from the
don't
organs.
forget about talking about cathedrals or like cathedrals. Kind of sounds like the bells also.
Right.
There's something. something with the frequency of the bells, and it seems to me, could be good for good or bad,
Right. Well, I kind of tend to think they were used for good because they took all the bells during World War II, right? Well, we need them for the war effort.
They
Give me
do.
them all. Not now, right now. So there's that kind of attitude with that. So
One of Hitler's secret weapon projects was the Die Glock, which
right,
was a giant bell structure, which, well, I mean, it's middle of the war. He wasn't trying to make it for peace reasons, kind of thing,
right.
Yeah, and
I don't think,
yeah, go ahead.
I think that lots of darkness, or people who are oriented towards the darkness or the low vibrations, want to take the power of the positive energy, the power of the goodness, and use it for bad. And they don't understand it doesn't work that way. And I think they keep trying regardless.
Yeah, I think they do kind of feed off it somehow, Hopefully it
Yeah,
doesn't
I've
work.
had people feed off, like they pull that energy from you like a leech, and you got to make it stop, or they'll just keep pulling and pulling and pulling. And
Right.
but I've seen that
Vampires.
with darkness more, because I don't think darkness can create the kind of powerful energy that the light can offer. And I think they want that, but they still want to be part of darkness, and it just doesn't go together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, free will, right? Everything has its own way or right to manifest how it wants, be it negative or positive, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's part of the cosmic present,
I see overall goodness, and this world is temporary. It's like a day in the life of a soul. This whole life. That's kind of my interpretation of it in a nutshell, if I had to say, right?
Right, like a
Exactly.
vapor.
In other dimension, we could be the giant lying down physically, right? Could be, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Or that rock, or the tree growing, or the bird flying. Right now, even. So this is where we are right now. And it is definitely fun to explore those other places that the narrative doesn't talk about. But a lot more people are, because I think they're just waking up to the nonsense of what they're trying to sell to us, or trying to hand to us. And they're not really reliable.
Well,
Exactly.
hey, speaking of not being reliable, I was kind of thinking about, what they teach us about petrification, permanentization. But what they say, what that takes over this stuff is calcite, silica, and iron. So, literally most of what they taught us is not full truth, or just straight up, lies. So I mean, maybe it isn't replaced. It's just the actual minerals and stuff from our bodies.
Oh yeah, absolutely possible.
The mud fossil stuff.
It's like carbon dating. They don't know what carbon dating is, really. Or if they say it's very inaccurate. But they still use it.
Well, they'll keep doing it until
any window they want.
They'll keep doing it till they get to the data they want, kind of thing. It's not reliable because you don't get the same results, on stuff. And I've heard like more than one story of they dug up for a basement or something and found some old bones and had them tested. And, they're like 1,000 years old, and it was like 150 years old from Farmer John that used to live there.
Funny. Yeah, John Gacy.
Because in the simulation theory, that it's supposed to be, we are supposed to be creator of ice, right? How do you create in ice biological matter? How do you do that? So it's quite possible to create this base with this organic matter, which is the rocks, the soil, that it started from this giant. Could be silica, could be carbon, could be any other which we don't know of. And it's a mix, and through some weapon, through some flood, naturally, whatever, and create this base, right? For us to,
like we were talking about, Roger Spur's actual DNA stuff, from rock. I just kind of thought of some years back, it was a pretty big deal, and then it just kind of disappeared. But everyone was all excited because they're just taking, powder and stuff from like inside of caves, they're getting DNA results because it's just powderized rock, whatever, And they were saying DNA, no bones about it, and but then for some reason, as cool as that was, I thought even it just totally you didn't hear anything else about it. It really didn't fit any of their narratives, I think.
Nah, they refused to talk to him about it, right? And didn't they threaten him? They said, "Look, if you don't stop trying to contact us, we're gonna take legal action against you."
Oh yeah, Roger, yeah, and I think they'd even done some CAT scans, literally, on some fossil stuff, or what was supposedly just rock, and had some good results. And then somebody did something because he was shut down and couldn't even get independent guys to do any more DNA testing. We had some DNA test stuff trying, but I don't know how legit it is because this guy from Canada that came down to one of my sites, the main site, and took some basically rock powder, and he sent it into like a family DNA test thing, but it was in Canada where he lives, and said he got some results back, and at one time it shared them with me. But again, we weren't wearing gloves, whatever, and stuff. It came back, not kidding. Some I don't remember totally, but mostly from like old school up north Russia kind of area, and like some of it was like Baltics and that. And this guy's that came down. He has a web channel, Oz something. And he got long blonde hair. I always call him the crazy Russian guy. I think he's half drunk and sings during his cast and stuff. But so I kind of parted ways with him. But anyway, he flew down here from Canada and wanted me to take him to the site, so I did. And him being from Russia initially makes me think it's probably his DNA that was just contaminated it. So point being, I don't really say we have DNA tests, and it was from the big head that's looks like it's inside of his, dragon mouth. But I definitely wouldn't be opposed to, doing some gloves on, legitimate, no contamination, drilling this somewhere. He says like 3 inches so that you're getting inside stuff, and send it in for a legitimate test if we could find an independent place that'll do it.
All right, if you could take a chunk home and like grind it or something.
Well,
I don't know if you can get power tools and.
I did break off what clearly looked like a long nail or claw off of this thing, and I have put it under the microscope, and the top and bottom are 100% different looking, kind of like you'd expect from a claw or nail, and the underside is all tiny bubbles, which really just looks biological,
Wow.
So I have that.
Hey Dan, to tell everybody where to find your stuff on social media, bro. Let everybody know so they can find your pictures and your videos.
Well, yeah, if you put in just Dan Sphinx Reels, I got that stuff all public. And a lot of them I put music to, maybe even did some special effects. I'm just trying stuff out. You
We're also
know,
working on putting up a
Real interesting.
website it's not up yet. We have the site and we have the site name and everything. And so that's in the works. So eventually his stuff will be on that as well.
Why Sphinx, Dan?
oh well, I'll tell you, man. My actual name is Dan Francos, and I was in Facebook jail for 30 days. And everyone says that the main rock sculpture looking thing at my main site looks like a sphinx. So I was kind of pissed that I was in Facebook jail, and so on my work phone I started another Facebook, and I just called it Dan Sphinx. And before I knew it, it took off, and I had all the mud fossil friends and all that. And I just kept it. And initially it was cool because I could post stuff. I didn't have to worry about, my aunt seeing or my mother or something that, trying to explain it or something. So it was kind of cool, and it just kind of stuck. The Sphinx thing, it does kind of look like it has an Egyptian headdress, but I've got a lot of different angles of it. It really looks to me like it's actual snakes coming up at the top and biting on this thing's head, which I think the Egyptian stuff is actually this, or depicting it, showing it.
Awesome. I thought it was.
There's a lot of other stuff at the same site, and there's a BS story. I like to say backstory. This guy in 1850 supposedly made some of this stuff in the 1850s. And some of the stuff's even dated 1850s, like carved in pretty good. And the thing is, the story, he only takes credit like for 3 or 4 of the things there. And there's literally hundreds, not just the main Sphinx looking thing. And, I didn't know until I washed its face. I had a soft brush, and I had a mix of half water and half white vinegar. And it wasn't until then I could see it actually. It looks like it has more than one face, like a side face with what looks like even teeth. And I also noticed that it's not just rock, it's real, just minerally and shiny and quartzy all over, which was pretty cool. I do want to get back out there with some better camera equipment than just my cell phone.
Oh yeah, because the Sphinx, I thought you had you are totally dedicated to only Sphinx. That's what I thought. Why Sphinx? But this is the thing: Sphinx are supposed to be everywhere, not only in Egypt. So it's in many different places.
Supposedly have them in the Grand Canyon.
Well, it is. Oh yeah, they're all over. Really, Turkey. There's that one big one, but looks like what's left of it.
Yeah,
You guys probably heard stories, or even like World War I, armies going through that area. We're like doing heavy artillery target practice on this thing because they're probably bored,
Wow.
So, and I've seen pictures of it, and again, but this was really before AI kind of stuff. There's old pictures around. Where it was just a head sticking up of this thing and the tips of the pyramids. A lot of this stuff was really just dug up in the last 100 years.
Oh yeah, and how much have to be more, right?
Oh yeah, it's like tip of the iceberg, probably.
They're finding places like every other week now.
Yeah,
it's just all over the place. It's amazing. Makes me wonder what's 5 miles below or 800 feet below me, whatever. Right?
all those underground brick tunnels and rooms and stuff. I mean, it's just
those tunnels could be linked to the Star Force. Some of them. They got
some of them are for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised. But they got those machines now that can do I don't know how many feet a day. That a 25-foot tall circle.
You know, some of them make sense for military positions, but a lot of them don't. You know, so I'm not totally sure. I do think maybe they were built to withstand what they knew was coming, like another world event type thing. That kind of makes sense. I mean, these things all got, you know, like 6-foot stone walls and stuff, you know.
Mm.
But I mean, I don't know. It's just a thought.
No, I hear you. Something they're used for something. Maybe reservoirs.
Even Statue of Liberty is on a smaller one. But again, it may be just a tip of a way bigger one. It's underwater, you know.
Right. There was three of them. There used to be one in Lower Manhattan called Fort Amsterdam. There's that's Fort Wood, the one under the Statue of Liberty, and then there's Fort Roosevelt on Roosevelt Island over there too. So there's three of them in there. The one in Manhattan's gone though. And all I ever saw was plans, and I thought the plans was just like somebody goofing around, but recently I kind of tend to think it might have been real.
I think Dan, is it in Dancing Giant Feet that there is this one giant that looks like the Sumerian with the bag? Do you have any idea about that?
No.
There's a bunch of them. You know, they're not just, you know, you kind of think those types of things, but you know.
Yeah, there are loads of them. Yeah, there are loads of them.
You know, usually you see the ones that I think, you know, show like the Anunnaki guy with like the bird head or, you know, something. But they're literally all over the world. Aztec stuff shows similar.
Exactly.
You know,
Robots.
Even like ancient Chinese stuff, you know,
exactly.
Which was kind of making me think back to, you know, African, but well, before I forget about that, but I have a feeling if you see the bags, some of them aren't just reliefs; they're whole bags. You can see in some museums. You know, they're really skinny, but pretty much 100%. I think when they show this on these Anunnaki guys with the wings and everything. They always got the wristwatch, the handbag, and what was the other thing? Oh, the pine cone. The pine cone. You know, so maybe those things are related. Like the purse thing. Maybe it was like the battery pack. You know, I don't know.
Or maybe the stash. Maybe the stash, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, said, my one friend said. Well, that's where they had the marijuana seeds to start the new civilization with.
Yeah, or mushrooms inside, right?
Yeah, for the Stone Day theory.
Yeah, and the watch is also interesting, right? All of them have this watch.
Right.
Yeah, that's really strange. I can understand the bag a little bit, makes more sense. Okay, they all do have them, but the watch is a little bit weird. You can't wear a sundial and think you can tell the right time because you're moving.
No, the watch flipped open, and it was a little pipe, and the pine cone was like a torch.
Funny.
But I mean, they always show all three together, so there's got to be some connection.
And the significance too between them and for them.
Oh yeah. They were all sharing the same technology, right?
Well, that reminds me of a thought I had earlier, like worldwide, whether, you know, it's ancient Aztec, Chinese, Japanese, you know, it's always the snake or the dragon serpent type thing, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's the reptile or the winged snake. Yeah, it's all over.
Even all the way back, you know, to Adam and Eve. It was the snake was the bad guy.
Where does the word America comes from?
It's I'm not sure if it was an Indian word or not, but from Ameru.
Exactly, winged serpent.
The plumed serpent.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's depicted all over the world in ancient stuff, you know, too. you know.
Amaruka.
Right.
Yeah, even in the East they have, and also the dragon is also so much related to that. The snake, the
Exactly.
reptile, the dragon, in every
Well,
culture.
you know, I highly doubt that it was an apple. You know, I'm sure it's just symbolic. But you know, it's back to the tree. You know, it was a tree of was it knowledge of good and evil, I believe, right? But I have a feeling that it's no different than today. It wasn't just an apple. They were kicked out of the garden. It was way too severe for just that, you know. I think the serpent tricked them into trying some pineal gland, maybe. Maybe that was the apple they weren't allowed to eat, you know?
Exactly. That was the forbidden fruit. We had this in one of our podcasts dedicated to that.
Yep. That's the fruit of information.
Right. I mean, it was serious. They were like kicked out. And, he's like, it was this woman you gave me. She did it. But that makes sense. And it's no different than what's going on today with, these people.
And it repeats itself.
Oh yeah, and they say also that in the beginning, they say that God created the earth from the void, right? And some say why it has to be void if God was so perfect. So in the beginning, the earth was void, was nothing, or it became nothing.
Well, Jen has a thought that we had talked about recently about that, and her thought was that it was void because the fallen angels that were kicked out of heaven were thrown down here, and whatever was here already. And the timeline's pretty much up for debate. You look back at the Veda stuff, or even ancient Samaritans. It was way before the Adam and Eve. So there was something going on here before that. That's conveniently left out of the standard Bible. But there was something going on. But I think it was void because everything was corrupted, and probably by DNA, and it was voided like a bad check, man. Like it was voided, dude.
Yeah, all culture have that, right? In a way, or the beginning.
Event.
Yeah, a reset in a way.
A reset, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nature in itself is very powerful. Like if we are a threat, or we become a threat in itself, naturally, the earth can really destroy all of us and restart without any controllers or any elite or manipulators, right?
Right. And then you hear about, in numerous places around the world, the elite, or whatever you want to call them, more than just millionaires. They're building, houses and apartments inside of mountains. Why would anybody who, most of these people are more tight with their money than we are, even if we're not broke, and they're going to spend, $1 million for a tiny apartment inside a mountain. Well, why would they do that if they didn't think something or know that something's coming? I mean, come on, I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I don't have an apartment in a mountain yet, but I don't think it's the worst idea I ever heard. I do have a shit ton of canned goods and supplies that slowly been building up, and if I don't ever need them, I've already rotated a little bit and helped out. Like my brother's like, hey, let me get a few canned goods. I'm blowing, man. I'm broke. I'm like, here, dude, I'll hook you up. And it's certainly nothing you want to live with, especially canned goods. But if you were starving, I suppose it don't matter.
Oh yeah, it's always good to be a little bit prepared with how the situation of the whole scene is going around. All right, so yeah.
Everything from manufacturing plants magically blowing up or having planes crash into them, to like supply lines being cut down on purpose. One little event or something, power went out, and the stores cleaned out that same night.
That's why I'm growing 10. Yeah, that's why I'm growing 10 different types of tomatoes and vegetables.
I also think it's important to know the lay of the land as far as what weeds, quote weeds, and what other plants are growing there, and so that you can forage and understand recipes on how to use the seeds from like the staghorn sumac tree and grind it and make flour, or how to live off the land without needing anything from any of these companies.
Oh yeah, you can totally survive on these natural growing plants if you understand it. You can survive only to that, because so much of nutritious food, it's much better than what we eat normally. All this processed.
It is. I have a very funny story. The one time I was hungry and I didn't feel like making breakfast, and I looked out and there were several dandelions outside, and I picked several of the flower heads because I wanted to eat them. And this precious old lady was like, "Sweetheart, if you're that hungry, I have some chocolate donuts if you want." and I was like, "Oh, you just don't understand how yummy these are and how nutritious they are for our bodies, and how satisfied I was and how quickly they fill you up compared to those donuts."
Oh yeah, and even stinging nettles or parsley, or there are many different herbs that grows naturally. And the best part is you should eat when it's growing, because that's the time our body needs to have that, or any kind of the other thorns ones. You eat the stems. Yeah.
Jen makes all her own like tinctures and herbs, and like myrrh, and we got this stuff I take often. It's just white pine needles.
Oh yeah! Amazing! The needle, the pine.
She dehydrates them. She has an electric dehydrator, and then she like makes a tincture. And man, I actually had a tooth get infected. It was hurting pretty bad. A couple days of that, no penicillin, nothing. I mean, it didn't fix the tooth, but the infection was gone.
Oh yeah, the pine is amazing. Not
only that, it gives you pretty good breath also.
Exactly, and the pine, how do you call the pollen? The pollen is supposed to have amazing properties, because it's like literally regenerates. Like the same way the pine needles have its properties of disinfecting and cleaning up the system, the pine pollen also have amazing properties, and it's connected with the pineal gland.
It has more vitamin C than oranges.
And lemons combined.
Does. Yeah. The one time Jen told me she was going to make a weed soup, I was like, all right. And it wasn't that kind of weed soup, but it was good.
Oh yeah, this is real food.
Yes, and it's so satisfying.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Parsley has the most omega-3 than anything on this earth. People spend so much money for blue fish and blue cheese to get this omega-3, right? And that is free in parsley.
And it tastes so good. I go out and grab a handful every single day while it's available, and it just, I don't know, it tastes so good. My body just wants it.
Parsley?
Yeah.
Purslane, it's called. It's almost like a succulent. It looks kind of like a succulent, and
it's
it's got this sweet taste.
Very watery and very dense. Very dense leaves and stems. Dense, but very amazing taste. It's not very.
It's so yummy.
Hey, that gave me a thought too. We were talking about recently. like the wise men, supposedly, in the story, they brought Jesus frankincense, incense, and myrrh. Well, it was most likely this, like a mirror tincture, you know?
Right.
Oh yeah.
'Cause, I always thought since I was a kid, you hear this story, they brought him incense or something.
Well, even
A
gold.
special incense, yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Well,
and you know
even
what
the
else?
gold
The gold
can be
was probably, what
consumed.
do you call it? The
Colloidal gold.
colloidal.
Yeah.
Colloidal.
I mean,
Like,
I'm thinking, man, they're hooking Jesus up with a bar of gold, man, But it was probably colloidal gold.
Yeah, and that can really increase your intelligence, increase your capacity for your brain to communicate, and helps with all sorts of the like the modernization and the communication. It's really amazing.
this is like #1 conductor of electricity, right?
Yeah.
And we do conduct. That's what we do, and that's how we communicate. That's how we function.
Right.
Hey,
That makes pretty good sense.
another shout out at Roger. He was talking about, a good number of years back. Where do they find gold and silver? In veins. We found a
Right.
silver vein because it's, sunk down in a giant creature or giant's veins. And it's literally in a vein. They call it that even. It's like, it even makes sense,
Yeah, even the veins of the water, right? They're called veins in reality.
A lot of them, if you look at them on the maps, they really look like snakes, giant snakes, turned into the water. The waterways, I mean.
Oh yeah, it's the sacred geometry of everything, macrocosm and microcosm, right? Anyway, guys, this topic is also huge, it's so much deeper we could have gone, or more things we would have covered, but we are almost coming up with our time limit for the podcast. So yep, there are so many other stuff we would in the future episode about different places, that all these legends that continues about all these rocks as being alive and living and vibrating, right? So yeah, and also in movies, also in games, and so many other aspects there is to cover. We can go deeper for sure in our future podcasts. So
yeah, I was a little worried, we'd run out of some stuff to talk about, but it seems like we did jump around a bit, but it seems like we're just getting warmed up, kind of.
Oh yeah. Like any other topic we do here, brother, all our topics are always open, and we are connecting the dots slowly. So yeah, we'll be having our last thoughts with everyone, and then we're gonna be wrapping up. All right, guys.
Yeah, I'll say goodnight to everybody. Evelyn, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here tonight. I had a feeling you were going to be here for the Giants show. And Dan and Jen, I'm really happy you guys showed up tonight. We were able to make time to hang out and bring a great conversation. Really nice to meet you guys, and I hope you come back again really soon. We can go into more detail maybe about certain aspects of things we went over tonight. Yeah, it was a little scattered, but I think this show was great. I had a lot of fun. And one thing I wanted to say was, when Jen, you were saying about trees having a collective energy, that I just recently heard that if you need to cut your tree, you're supposed to do it at the right time, first of all. So research time to cut your trees back. But if you need to cut them, you talk to the tree and you touch the limbs that you're going to cut, and it will disconnect from the limbs that need to be cut down. So it will respond to you.
Yes.
Supposedly.
Yes. Well, it is. It's powerful, the
I
connection that we can have.
Definitely. I really do believe that. I got an unusually large amount of four-leaf clovers that I find because they tell me where they are. That's how. I don't go looking for them.
Right. That's happened to me too. That's
right?
crazy.
So, cool. Very cool. So All right, yeah, everybody, thanks for hanging out, spending your time with us. Really appreciate
Hey,
it.
thanks.
And it was
Thanks for having
great
us.
pleasure to be here with all you guys. Thanks,
Yeah,
Vikka.
thanks for having us. Nice meeting you, Vikka and Evelyn.
Hey,
Yeah,
Dan. Last thoughts, brother, and anything last you want to share about the topic before we say
No,
goodbye?
I think we just kind of scratched the surface, but I think at least some of them, the rocks were definitely alive, I think.
or maybe
Oh,
still
yeah.
alive.
Oh, yeah. Awesome, brother. Thanks for being here. Definitely, we're going to continue connecting the dot on this too, because I think it's a part that we all need to also get in deeper, as it connects to flat earth and everything, what we are seeking, right? Awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. It was a pleasure.
All right, guys. Thanks for having us.
Jen, last thoughts?
I think that I was really intrigued and not challenged, but I'm really excited about understanding more about Noah and the flood and the salt water and the electrical forces that could have been going on. That really stuck deep in my mind, and I feel like I'm assimilating it into my worldview. And I really appreciated all the things that I was able to learn and see things from slightly different perspectives at times. And it just helps to complete the whole picture. And I absolutely love that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we all are doing. That small part creates that big picture, the big truth. Absolutely.
Yes.
It was a pleasure to have you, Jen.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you all and spend some time with you. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Evelyn, are you there? Are you?
Yes, I'm still awake. Still awake. It's 3 a.m. here, so there's a video on the internet that's called "There Are No Trees on the Earth" or something like that, and that's a really good one to watch. Just blow your mind. All the
no forest on flat earth. Yeah.
No forest on flat earth. Yeah. Yes. And yeah, every week, every time I'm here, I get to put a little a piece on the puzzle. So yeah, that's and that's it. I'm tired.
Oh yeah, thanks for being here, Evelyn.
Yes, good to be back here. Good to see you all. Good to meet you, Jen and Dan.
Oh yeah, everybody, that's the thing. There you have it. Rocks are alive. There are much more possibility that it looks alive. Not only they were alive or they are still vibrating, but on a different frequency. That's why maybe it looks to us as material. But yeah, definitely as we mentioned, we just scratched the surface, and definitely we're gonna be going in this on a more deeper and connecting the dots. So thank you everybody for being here. Jean, Evelyn, Dan, Jen, and everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys check us out on the next episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka Draziv, signing off, guys. See you soon next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
To the moon.
Houston, we have a problem.